Yo，Hello Alex，歡迎大家嚟到今日嘅 Bloop 啊。
Yes，好開心，我哋終於嚟到我哋嘅目的地。
係
Finally，我哋唔使喺嗰個背晒光嘅窗口拍我哋啲 podcast 啦。I hated that setting。
我會叫呢個做 Fish Tank 3.1。
3.1啊
3.1，因為3.0就係上個禮拜喺仲係拍緊個
窗口
嘅。而家我哋呢邊都 set 得好晒啦。而家有個輕輕嘅 upgrade 就係3.1。
No 3.0啦，因為即係可能將來可以喺周圍喺呢個 studio 拍唔同嘅景啦。So yeah, this is the final destination. We're here, and let us know what kind of guests, topics you want to see, and 我哋盡量睇下可唔可以幫你安排下啦。
而家就可以拍得多好多啦。
Yeah，
因為有咗自己地方啦。
係啊，
容易安排好多。
係啊。之前就有啲限制嘅，因為之前嗰個景咧實在夜晚黑太醜樣啦。So this one nighttime it looks alright, right? The other place didn't look good, so we never did it at night. That means we only did it in the afternoon. And 即係可以約到咩嘉賓可以晏晝3、4點嚟咧，係都有限嘅。But yeah, we're here. Anyway, so what have you been up to lately?
我尋晚咧就去咗中環 Landmark 個 basement。佢有個新 concept 叫 Below Ground， 你有冇聽過？
我有聽過，係啊。
係啦，咁佢就係擺咗好多一啲 young line 啲啦，即係譬如而家 Landmark 嘅人嘅心目中都係比較多名牌子啊，貴嘅牌子啊，咁佢而家係多啲 young line 後生啲嘅，可能 Yeti Out 啊，有幾間我都唔係好記得㗎啦啲名嘅，咁但係佢尋日仲多咗個 exhibition，咁就一個 New York 嘅 graffiti artist 同埋兩個嘅香港 artist 嘅 crossover。
哦，叫咩名啊？記唔記得？
嗰叫 Cope2，Cope COPE2 就係嗰個美國嘅 artist。咁香港有個叫 Chino Lam， 同埋有個叫 Ava Alpha 咁上下，即係亦都係一個 local artist 嚟嘅。我 exactly 名我就唔記得點讀啦。咁我都有問過佢喺疫情之下點樣做 collaboration 咧？原來佢真係有啲係畫完之後成幅寄過嚟，先至再喺嗰幅嘢上面加。即係佢哋而家都可以喺疫情之下都做到 collab， 就係要 ship 過嚟咯。你畫完一次，我再喺上面 on top 再加咁樣做法。
That's cool. That's cool. So 係幾耐嘅呢個 pop up？
呢個 pop 我諗佢好似仲嚟緊呢個 weekend 都仲有得睇嘅。
Oh, is that the one Fed is doing?
係啦，冇錯。
哦，OK. That's cool.
佢 basically 就將成個美國嗰個 subway system， 即係嗰個 metro system。
哦，即係 installation 咁樣嘅。哦，好似見到 ，yeah。
買飛機啊，過閘機啊，個成個車廂啊，嚟到 Landmark 嘅 basement 嗰度。
Well, you know， 依家呢個疫情嘅世界，我哋大家都要揾辦法啦。Because we can't do events like before. But speaking of events， 首先有幾個 event 想喺度 plug 啦。下個禮拜星期1、22號。喺呢個 The Grounds， 即係呢個天星碼頭嗰度出邊嗰個戶外嘅點樣講戲院啊？佢又係咪戲院咧 ？He's like a outdoor， 即係講摩天輪下邊嗰個即係 outdoor cinema space， 即係戶外戲院係戲院嚟嘅。Yeah，
係四個人咁樣噶嘛，係啦。
Yeah，so 我上年嗰套《獅子山上》就會喺嗰度播放咯。
哦，係啊。
Yeah, so I'm excited. That's a cool event, and I think 呢個係一個好安全嘅 event 啦，因為個個都即係
四個隔開一啲，
隔開
室外係咯，應該理論上就係比較安全嘅。
Yeah, so we all have to be really creative now， 即係點樣去搞 events and stuff, right？ 因為有好多限制咧 ，COVID。But also another really cool thing I want to plug and let everybody know is 嚟緊30號咧。Also
3月30號，因為出得嚟嘅時候都可能4月3月30號，
未必唔係嘅喎 ，scheduling 可能個禮拜啦。Anyway， 30號好開心嚟緊 ，also 都喺 The Grounds 會做一個。我又唔知個 event 係咪公開嘅定咩，但總之咧喺嗰度咧就會
我俾我哋聽咩咧
We'll do Hashtag Legends 5th Anniversary Party.
Oh, cool.
And so I'm excited. I'm going to be singing there, and I haven't sung live in a long ass time. And so I don't know. I'm going to be singing with Doughboy, and that should be fun. And that's because we also did a photo shoot with Hashtag Legend last week, and that was a cool ass photo shoot. So 我好快咁樣 wrap up 一下。So we went there, super cool shop, Lamborghini. 包晒成個 Lamborghini 鋪頭啦，2層啦，灣仔星街。And I just want to say that the lunch that they got was super bomb。我好耐冇試過呢個即係翻工跟住即係嗌晒成個 spread 係嗰日係嗌咗越南菜啦 ，and then like I guess somebody at Hashtag was like, "Yo, dough boys here at the photo shoot today. It'd probably be really funny if we got some dough bros." So we got like everyone got like a one pizza, like a whole pizza on top of 即係嗰日晏晝我食咗一個粉啦、春卷啦，差唔多半個 or like 一成個 pizza 啦，a chocolate donut。
即係可想而知，你平時做嘢，你食飯應該好慘啊！即係你而家
慘㗎，大佬，
好似你
好慘。
出最正係咩？個 lunch 好正，跟 Lamborghini 隔離冇人 care， 哇，都 bro 啊！我食個 pizza 先啦。
So anyway, all of this is also to tag our guest tonight because 佢都有份係去安排嗰日即係 Lamborghini shoot。Hashtag legend, the 5th anniversary party. And the first time I met him was also at a party, at a cool event. Tons of cool events before, but now different world. So I want to pick...
The only time I will see him is always at night and always a party.
Yeah, I've always been curious what his...
係一個吸血僵屍咧。
係咯，好想知道佢個眼睛係點樣嘅。我哋依家帶我哋嘅嘉賓出嚟。BigDaddyGlam! Oh shit!
中文還是
你舒服就得㗎啦。
中英撈都 OK，
中英撈都 OK。最好唔好講爛口啦。
爛口都冇問題。係啦。
嗱，其實 actually 多謝我今日咧welcome everybody to the first ever podcast for my show. So I'd like to welcome Alex Lam.
Oh my God.
So come to my new studio. In fact,
hijack
this is my new studio now.
So Marcus, the first time I asked Gordan, 即係你會唔會有興趣上我哋嘅 podcast? The first thing Gordan said to me was, "Do you want me to hijack your show?" 佢就已經覺得。佢就上咗嚟就我哋都冇都講，
呢個真係我 show 嚟，
呢個係
咪啊
？Yeah，
我預咗㗎啦，我淨係睇咗你個 brief 都發覺其實嗰度都一個鐘啦，咁我都係喺度聽得㗎啦。
一集都唔止，起碼成個專業，仲要賣埋俾韓劇嗰班人係咪啊
？Yeah, he also offered 喺個 brief 嗰度 ，so we asked them so Gordan prepared a brief of detailing 即係有啲咩 topic 可以傾，佢就已經好細緻咁樣 trace 咗佢成個 life 嘅 journey 咁樣咧。即係 look WhatsApp 係 look 幾次嘅即係幾頁嘅 and then really kudos on top of his whole life at the end he added a footnote he was like additionally if this is not enough we could also sing an acoustic session so all I can say is just this is just testament to your personality super larger than life full of content but also well prepared.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we really appreciate that.
Well, 老人家多數係氹氣少少嘅，同埋咧係。同埋咧，我哋一定要寫低，我驚咧嚟到唔記得咗，我應該要做啲乜嘢啊嘛。
即係我哋今日 call time 7點半啦，平時我9點半就諗住走㗎，我諗今日預到2點。
Oh shit！
2點啱開始。
我哋而家 warm up 緊啫嘛。
No， 我淨係驚啲機器同埋啲 SIM card 唔夠 data， 唔夠 data， 我哋係拍唔晒嘅。But yes, thank you for coming on our show. Super, it's a pleasure to have you here. I don't know, where do we begin? Because you have a really interesting life.
Well, actually, I just want to say, when I first met Alex, when I started Hashtag Legend magazine, he actually did, 佢幫我影咗輯相, that actually was a fashion cover with Louise Wong, who's a famous model from Hong Kong. So at that time, I didn't really know who he was, because I didn't know who his father is. Because 因為我鬼仔嚟㗎嘛，都扮鬼仔啦。即係識聽唔識講嗰隻啦，係咪？好似佢咁咯。咁然後anyway, so I thought he was such a cool guy, and after the shoot, I know that it was his birthday, and so we celebrated right after 我哋個 fashion shoot, and we got the cake out, and we went for a drink after.
Yeah.
And from then on, we became friends. So Yeah, and he's always been very nice. He's such a lovely boy.
So I met Gordan. That's the first time 即係工作合作啦。But another side of Gordan that I think we all know is when you meet Gordan out, and then also shortly after 即係影完嗰個 shoot 之後咧，就有幾次即係熟咗之後就去唔同嘅 event， 即係會 close 啲咧。Gordan is the type of guy that you want to have by your side if you're out. Just like when you're out socializing with people, like his即係 Marcus 某程度上都係嘅，佢 Marcus 都好 social， he's more outgoing than me， 即係佢見到啲咩人都係好識得去start a conversation 啊，or ask the right questions. But Marcus, when you see this guy in action, like 我記得有一次我哋係一個I think it was a Dior event。And there was like a private dinner before the main event, and 請咗啲 I think the head designer of Dior back then, Chris Van Ash, was here. Remember?
Yes, I remember.
It was a very small dinner.
Yeah,
but for me, when I went there, like I didn't know all those guys that were from Europe, and then it was only a few people from Hong Kong. I guess I just chose the people who could speak English, right?
Yes.
So that would make sense.
No,
so
good looking too.
yeah, so,
good looking and stylish.
But 即係當然，如果我收到嗰個通知就你要去呢度，跟住同呢啲人食飯，我都會有啲驚。It's like oh shit, like what do I talk with them? Like
we have fun.
But when you have Gordan there, it's like you're on the highway and the car is on. You're just cruising because he just knows how to act. He knows how to socialize. He knows how to make people feel comfortable and have a good time. So I don't know. Is that something 你天生係有嘅定係幾時？
Actually, it's part of my job. I think it's something that I always want to do. I think 我細個咧 one of my dreams was actually to be a rock star. Until I went to London to study, 我唱唔到歌. And then I thought, what can be cooler than a rock star and a musician? And so, that's why I'm so jealous with Alex. And then I became a fashion designer because that's the next coolest thing that you could possibly do at that time. So I was in London back in 1980s at boarding school, and I was the only Chinese guy in the entire year. So 我諗1980年，如果你去到外國 study 咧
，it's tough.
People talk about hate. I mean, South Asian hate right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Seriously, right now it's more politically correct to say that.
Yeah.
But in those days, you just have to take what you get, and you have to give what you take back. So basically, you have to really fight and defend yourself. So, 同埋我覺得咧how I gained my own confidence my whole life. I was never really like that. I was very timid, very shy. Although 靚仔 doesn't mean that you are cool, right? 講笑就。But I think going to boarding school it's a very good solid experience for any boy. Now, providing that if you can, of course, stand up for yourself.
Yeah, I wanted to say like, it's either make or break, right?
Yes, correct.
Like, 因為我細個我都喺英國 boarding school 嘅。
Yeah.
I remember the first year I went there, the first week.
幾多年呢？
我已經即係唔係80年代，即係我去到嗰個年代。
00年㗎啦
，80年代你都未出世啦。
你都差唔多2000年啦。
Like for example, my dad, when I was growing up, he was always because 我爹哋都係寄宿嘅，and he's always like, 哇，即係依家 when he's comparing to me going to school, it's like 你依啲即係you got it easy before. There was like fagging, right?
Yeah.
So fagging was like when you're a lower year in the boarding school, you're basically a personal slave to 一個 senior
student in
so,
the same boarding school.
Yeah. So but when I went already, 佢哋已經即係 outlaw 咗呢個 practice 啦。
呢個已經係好，you're very lucky already.
Yeah, but like I remember. When I went there the first year and the first week, 即係已經開始面對racism 啦，and 啲人想 bully 啦。But like I just want to follow up what you're saying. It's like a very strong challenge. Like either you learn how to stand up for yourself, or you just 4-5年就一路就會俾人恰。
Yes, of course, yeah.
So how did you 你初第一年去係點樣適應呢？
其實咧，我自己咧 actually when I was young, when I was growing up, of course, everything Western is super cool. So it's like James Dean, Elvis Presley 總之係 the coolest people are Westerners and Caucasians. 咁嗰時我成日細個咧，我其實係怨我 family. Why can't I be Asian? I mean, Caucasian and look like them and look so cool? Until I went to boarding school, and then I realized that okay, you're being picked on, whatever. And then I decided, it's either you're going to be a victim, or you can be a cooler person and be a hero. 因為咧嗰時咧我係唯一一個 Chinese 喺我個 year 啦。So it's not like nowadays when you go to a boarding school 或者 you go abroad to study and then it's like 30 people from Hong Kong that you know。而
家英國係多香港人多過外國人，你去到係唔使講英文嘅，全部講廣東話。
Exactly. So at that time, I was forced to stand up for myself, and I realized that my parents worked so hard to give basically my life and all my sisters and my siblings a good education。咁我覺得如果我過得去英國讀書嘅話，點解我唔可以代表all Asians and make them think that Asians are cool? So that was my attitude, and that's how I became the bully at school instead of being bullied. And I was trying to, and then everybody accepted me because I get on with basically everybody. I don't have any prejudice, even though 喺學校或者你俾人 bully， 咁 you have to give it back to them. And then afterwards they respect you.
Yeah.
And then eventually you have to be cooler than them.
Yeah.
So I think growing up now is like whoever I am right now, it kind of like it's my philosophy of representing Asians in a certain way. Whatever I do. 點解我會開 Dragon-i with 梁其龍 my partner Gilbert？ 點解我哋會開whatever？ 點解我會做某啲嘢？點解我會做 designer？ It's all because I want to represent Chinese people or Asian people to be cool. So I guess I succeeded in a certain way. 嗱，其實我最敬仰嘅 personality from Hong Kong is actually the late Sir David Tang. 因為 Sir David Tang, of course he speaks super well and well educated English. He's more English than the Queen of England. But he can 着住套長衫馬褂出嚟，擔住支雪茄，可以同埋 Kate Moss the coolest people in London to represent and be proud of Chinese. Now he had balls, and he had balls like an iron that nobody can bust. That's what I respect.
Yeah. So when you were in school, was the late Sir David Tang, was he already working in London, or was?
No, I mean he's much older than me, so I'm not that old. I'm much younger.
But he was already like
He's already
the first Hong Kong guy to make such an impact over.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, he is, after all, Sir David Tang.
Yeah.
He was knighted by the Queen. So that is something for a Chinese person. I mean, there's only a few people in those days.
Yeah. Wow. So how did your journey? You were studying, and then you went into fashion in London. How did that happen?
其實好辛苦嘅，因為咧80年代when my parents sent me to school， 80年代嗰個時期咧，如果你 parents send you to a all male boarding school especially when I was the only son. Actually, in fact, I already knew I wanted to study fashion before. I went there when I was 13. So I was already into fashion, maybe 11, 12 years old. I was really into fashion. 尤其是80年代嗰個時期，嗰個 fashion 點樣講咧？Landmark 嗰時係冇咁勁嘅，they just have like a scattered shop. There wasn't really the major LV 即係 flagship store there. So I think 80年代同90年代嗰個時期咧 the fashion, and especially European fashion and Japanese fashion was really the peak in those days. 嗰時係人人咧喺香港咧，就算我媽咪都唔會俾我着 Made in China 嘅衫嘅。It's not because it's being racist，因為你買對 Eddie 你都要知道，hey Eddie is from Germany. At least it's made from in Germany. It's not made in Thailand. Of course nowadays it's different. It's everything is either made in China or Thailand, right? So there's a lot of differentiation. So
因為我覺得細個嘅時候係會睇下 made in 邊度，係因為嗰陣時仲會覺得，如果係 made in 一個歐洲地方，好似或者一個美國地方，好似個 quality control 好似好啲。咁 obviously 去到而家就係全世界所有嘢都係世界工廠亞洲做晒啦。咁就好唔同咯嗰時，真係會睇嘅，即係同一件衫同一個款 made in 邊度可能都有分別嗰陣時。
一定有分別，一定有分別。咁即係好似你買咩衫啫 ，Lacoste 嘅話 ，it has to be made in Paris。但係嗰時真係你去親邊度咧 ？Of course in those days， 你就算去 hotel 或者去 club 我第一個 club 咧喺香港我去嗰時咧 ，I was maybe 15 years old， 就係以前嘅 old 叫做 disco。Okay。It was the only club 成個蘭桂坊 ，it's the coolest club ever。
已經有蘭桂坊啦嗰時。
嗰時有蘭桂坊嘅，但係得一間 club 叫做 disco。嗰時咧係全部啲最型嘅人咧，80年代咧最型嘅人。Danny Chan 陳百強、羅文
I want to hear about those days.
張國榮、梅艷芳，然後所有啲名門嗰啲我唔需要講啦。In those days 咧，你入去咧，一定你唔可以着波鞋啦，一定要着皮鞋，一定要着，總之你着得身光頸靚，同埋你一睇到咧，一定要知道。你着緊呢個一定係咩 brand 嚟嘅？因為嗰時咧係好易認嘅。如果你着 Yohji 咧，你好易睇到 S.Yohji。你呢個你對 Jean Paul Gaultier 咧，你就着咗 Jean Paul Gaultier。或者你着住Armani whatever， 你就着住
You knew，
you know straight away。因為嗰時咧啲人咧好瘋狂對於 fashion。
Yeah, like
disco.
哇！嗰個年代咧 ，actually I have to tell you, first of all, music was the key element。嗰個年代 ，first of all 嗰時已經係 New Romantic stage，so basically Duran Duran、New Order、Depeche Mode， 嗰時 actually 嗰時仲要會唱埋 Monica from。張國榮，即係嗰時因為佢有跳舞版，咁你入到去
right？
嗰時係乜嘢 ？Everything is mixed together。You can't think of going to a club where 佢哋會唱 Thanks Monica， 嗰啲人喺度會跳舞。
而係型喎，即係聽。
但係嗰時係型喎，你着住到 Kansai Yamamoto 同埋 Yohji 喺度跳舞，你覺得係好型。咁 disco 咧係一個好係一個。Legendary club，
佢位置喺邊度度咧？蘭桂坊？
我講俾你聽，我啱啱想講俾你聽，其實就係而家嘅布啦。
哇！即係嗰個位係
嗰個位
跳咗40年，
好有歷史喎嗰個 property
位咧。而家啲人去咧 have no idea who actually has been there before。同埋咧嗰時咧，你直情可以嗰時因為好少人出街嘅，我直情。揸車嗰時咧，我15歲已經攞到牌㗎啦，因為我喺英國讀書，15歲攞咗牌，咁我揸爹哋架車，直情泊咗喺出邊條街嗰度，因為任你泊㗎，因為嗰時唔會抄你牌。所以而家你泊架車喺度，入都入唔到，
拖走咗啦，
入都入唔到去啊，真係慘啊
！Oh my god!
So that was actually, in fact, I have to thank my parents because 嗰時咧係我爹哋媽咪帶我去第一次，咁入到去直情我覺得。哇！我15歲已經可以入到 club 喎，好勁喎！同埋全部都係靚人嚟嘅，即係你入到去咧係星光熠熠，一定係靚到飛起。咁咧 actually 咧你入去咧你都係你哋如果你哋去過服啦 ，of course you know you have to go down the stairs。咁咧右手邊咧入到去咧就係 cloak room，and then you know obviously you have to pay if you don't know them。 咁我 actually 我細個入去 club 咧，因為我嗰時已經着得好型，so they think oh that's cool， 其實但係我都估唔到我點解可以15歲嗰時
15歲真係好細個，
同埋嗰時要着衫，你真係要着得好型先入到去。
Yeah。
咁anyway 咁你入到去啦，咁然後咧in fact in the middle of 成間 club 啦，因為 of course Voila has changed 嗰個成個 layout，但係咧以前入到去咧，你要 go through 一間玻璃房 ，which is like a maze， 即係你入去係一間 maze。咁咧你會見到，因為咧 as actually in those days there was a lot of like gay people around. It's like really cool gay people around, but it was kind of like 點樣講咧？ They weren't really accepted. So you could call it the first mixed gay club ever. So that's why fashion, music, people,
culture,
and the whole mix of whoever goes there, it really makes that place unique because 你入到去啲人係靚嘅，係斯文嘅，又 gay，又 tasteful。咁咧你會見到呢啲男仔咧。對住塊鏡喺個 maze room 嗰度，你入去咧，淨喺度自己喺度對住塊鏡，自己喺度跳舞。Those days were the days when you 望住塊鏡自己跳舞，你唔需要 partner， 你唔需要 partner 話喂你
just enjoying the music。
靚女佢唔會㗎，使乜靚女啊？我自己對住哇靚仔喺個鏡裏面，自己喺度跳舞，
對住塊鏡 J 自己啦，而家
咪就係咯！哇，呢條咁型嘅，仲要跟住我個舞步喺度跳舞。
So cool.
So that was a legendary place that I could share with you. 咁咧，我actually 我嗰時已經係好沉迷音樂同埋
fashion and music.
It was my life basically. So eventually when I realized I'm not of a good singer anyway. I can't really sing.
No, I've heard you sing. I heard it's good. Yeah.
Really?
At Dragon-i one time.
Really? Oh my God.
It was good.
Really?
Yeah.
You must be dreaming.
Sorry， 繼續。
係咯，咁anyway eventually 我去咗讀 boarding school 啦。When I was 13, so I study from 13 till I think 18, and then我個 school 咧其實係好多8年歷史㗎啦，嗰時已經。So 係冇人咧 has ever turned around to the headmaster because they usually give you guidance. Hey, what do you want to do? The majority of the people usually say, "Oh, I want to be a doctor. I want to be an architect." 因為咧，你 Chinese family 你去到最 safe 嗰幾樣就係 Chinese accountant 即係嗰個時代咧係 doctor accountant。
而家都仲係，
依家都係嘅，
而家都係嘅
engineer
即係你唔會話I want to be a DJ。哦，原來而家 DJ 揾咁 Q 多錢㗎，right？你唔可以話。Oh, I think I'm going to be Steve Aoki。
我 feel 到而家北歐洲嗰啲家長係會叫個仔快啲學 DJ 嘅。
Yeah， the world has changed。
Yes。咁嗰時咧，其實係有少少tough 嘅，因為咧 as the only son in the family，sending me to boarding school is one thing. I mean, it's all boys school。咁嗰時咧，其實係it was the height of AIDS。epidemic in the whole world. So AIDS 你楞埋gay people, and then you're going to boarding school in London. So of course any family will think, oh my God, I hope my son go there and doesn't come back as a gay person. So 尤其是我話俾我 family 聽I'm going to study fashion。即係佢哋嘅心直情係嗰一聲話 what？
Yeah, they didn't understand。
因為你會讀 fashion 嗰啲全部都係 it's like it's
即係冇話 stereotype 啦。Statistically 其實我諗讀得譬如喺 London 讀 fashion school 嘅男仔已經少啦。10個男仔入邊可能有9個都唔係基都係拜㗎啦，咁可能剩翻一個係真係 straight， 即係拜食啲食。嗰個就係我咯，嗰個就係我。
So actually, it took me a while to first convince my family to let me study fashion. The other thing is prove to my family that I'm not gay. Not that I care whether it's gay or not, but I think for them it's a important thing。
就諗一個傳統中國 family 可能會有少少 concern 咧，喺嗰個年代
Yes
尤其是。
但係咧有樣嘢咧，it come to my advantage，就係我嗰時咧，我可以細個就係成日帶女仔翻屋企過夜，所以咧我屋企人就覺得。你原來係真係唔係講嘢
佢會 check， 其實原來個三個閨蜜嚟嘅，一齊搽指甲油，原來翻學
發達啦，成日帶女翻屋企係咪過夜啊
Naughty boy.
So I had a pretty good time.
Yeah.
咁然後
So where did you study fashion in?
I studied at it's called Ravensbourne Art College in South London. Actually, I got into St Martin's as well， 但係我唔中意佢哋個 campus，因為咧太 centralized，同埋好 distracting。So I picked a place which is south of London with huge campus, really a lot of fresh air. Because it doesn't really matter because of the name. It's all about you as a person, how creative you are. So St Martin's, of course, it's just a name. But afterwards, I actually got into Royal College of Art to do my master degree because my college wanted me to apply. 但係嗰時我已經同一個其實我 second year， 因為 it's a 3-year course。我 second year 嗰時我已經同 one of the top designer. I was already working for them as a kind of like a studio designer for them. So I was very, very lucky. So my first job right away, I didn't even have to look for anything. I was already working for the top designer in London.
So when you were that age, did you want to stay in London and do design and fashion?
其實我冇諗過返嚟香港。And I actually came back at the end of 1998. 1998. I was supposed to be back for 3個禮拜 just to see my family. 因為嗰時我家姐喺外國喺美國讀完書，咁我就喺英國嘅，我家姐咧就喺美國讀書嘅，大我1年。我個妹咧就喺加拿大讀書嘅。So 3 of us went to 3 different countries. Anyway, so my sister actually came back to Hong Kong as one of the dean of international school in that time. So she was living in Stanley at that time at a place called, funny enough, Gordan Terrace. So I came back for 3 weeks. I was staying at Gordan Terrace, and it was basically 5分鐘 you can walk to the beach in Stanley now. So every day I go to the beach. Of course, when you're in London, where can you find any
beach?
You can't even find any sand, let alone a beach. Right? So anyway, so all of a sudden I thought, wow, Hong Kong is such a beautiful place. 嗱，我去咗英國18年。
Wow.
我係未諗過會返嚟。
Oh my God, you were there for that long?
Yes, I was working, and actually besides working as a fashion designer, I was the first Chinese club promoter in London. Now, going back to my original philosophy, studying fashion as a Chinese guy is one thing, which I was trying to represent Asian people to be cool in those days. And then being the first Asian Chinese guy to be promoting the clubs in London, it's unheard of. Now, I was very, very lucky because at that time, 90年頭啦，我畢咗業，咁我已經喺 London 做緊嘢 as a designer. So music and fashion, it links together. And I used to go out all the time because I was living in London at the time. So club was the first, it's like going to the gym. So as a fashion student, if you're in the fashion industry, you go out to all the coolest clubs. And especially the way you dress. And in those days, that there aren't that many trendy Asian people around. 因為我去嗰啲地方咧，全部都係最難入，同埋係最揀人入嗰啲地方，唔係俾錢先入到。So you have to be cool, you have to know the right people. So I was at that time I was hanging out in a place in London called Chelsea, which is super famous anyway for all the super
fashion,
famous and rich 靚仔靚女 from central London.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of the people from super high society, and so they all go to all the coolest club in London. So people were, I mean, some of the girls, I mean, they were going out to clubs when they were 14, but 因為鬼妹啦，你14歲已經係靚到係飛起㗎啦。咁 so actually I was going out a lot, and of course I never thought that I would be a club promoter in London one day. And funny enough, because I hang out with all the coolest people because I was in the fashion industry. So eventually, one time I was in the club called Quiet Storm, and somebody asked me, one of the top promoter who came to me at that time, he was really the top club promoter. Your Prince, the Prince was in the club. Madonna.
Oh my God!
即係我去親嗰啲 club 咧，全部都係 Elton John, George Michael, Depeche Mode, Duran Duran. 你諗到嘅Brad Pitt, whatever. I mean, everybody is a star inside. 即係你入唔到去，你平時你根本你 ordinary people 你俾錢你入唔到去。
即仲有好多 celebrity 係會出去玩嘅時候咯。
嗰個係 golden
因為
era 嚟。
而家我諗你想見都見唔到，係因為已經成個
yeah.
privacy 唔同咗
Gordon,
啦。celebrity.
I read a interesting 係即係補充你個 point 就係 like why Marcus is saying that 因為自從 smartphone 出現咗之後咧。And everyone can film IG stories and stuff.
Yes.
A lot of the celebrities lost that 嗰個空間啊，可以真係去。
你講緊你自己啫，我唔 mind 人哋平時 IG story。我玩下手會俾翻錢你嘅。So if you're not following me on Instagram, if you're watching this program, go to BigDaddyGlam and press that button follow. Okay?
Yeah. Don't tag me. Don't tag me. Tag him if we're out.
會有收翻錢嗰把 PayMe 俾你。
So, who was 即係嗰幾年before you came back to Hong Kong, 你喺 London, you were doing fashion and you were a club promoter.
Yes.
Actually, 首先我想問即係可能好多我哋啲觀眾都 maybe they don't know, but what does a club promoter do? What's the job like description?
Actually, to be honest with you, I have no idea what club promoter actually do. I was just a club goer at that time.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I went to a typical boarding school. It's not something that you want to go to university and say, I want to be a club promoter and get a degree out of it, right? So I was really surprised that I was honored to be asked by one of the top club promoters to work with them. Because I know so many people from the nicer area, and I know a lot of very connected and beautiful people back in those days. I still do.
Of course.
但係咧 actually 我個故仔係好偶然。So one night I was in the club, and the promoter at that club asked me, Gordon, do you mind if I have a chat with you? I said, yeah, sure. 咁佢話do you think you have time every week to come down to this club? I said, yeah, I come down here every week.
I'm here anyway.
Would you be interested to be a club promoter? I said, this is the exact word, like what you asked me just now. What is a club promoter? He said, well, actually, it's very simple. You see, you have so many beautiful friends that you know from Chelsea and different, Knightsbridge, blah, blah, blah. Come on. So why don't you invite all your friends, put a guest list together, okay? All your beautiful friends can get them for free, and whoever they bring, and they pay, and then we work out at the end of the night how much you brought down in business, and we will give you money back. I said, what do you mean? You're going to give me money? I said, you're going to give me money for going out? 我話咁筍嘅啫，點解媽咪爹哋冇教我嘅？ 如果唔係一早啲已經幫我 pay 緊錢俾我啦，係咪啊？So
已經唔使俾錢啦，仲要有酒飲啦，仲要有錢袋喎。
嗱，唔係喎
3個 level。
佢嗰時咧係仲未講到有酒飲嘅。
OK
佢就係咧，佢話well actually we were going to pay you at the end of the night and on business plus 聽住 plus you get free drinks all night and you can look after your friends. I said
I'm in.
I'm in.
Oh my god.
That's how I got into club promotion. And then eventually I was doing up to maybe 3 or 4 nights a week. And of course it was tough.
Yeah.
But I love going out. And every night, in London it's a different story. It's not like Hong Kong when they go to a Volar or you go to Dragon-i because there's so much competition. And also in London, it's very segregated to what kind of music. 你係中意 dance music 啊，你係中意 reggae music 啊，你係中意 live jazz 啊，還是你中意 electronic dance music 啊，還是你中意 house or garage or hip hop. So 每一個club 咧 every night they will have a different crowd of people and a different club promoter to promote it. So eventually I just happened to be known as a sort of celebrity kind of club promoter. So a lot of the people who comes down to my clubs are all the coolest fashion people. Brad Pitt, Brad Pitt. I used to look after Brad Pitt when he wasn't that famous then. He had long hair, and guess what? He was filming in London. The Interview with the Vampire.
Ah, with Tom Cruise.
With Tom Cruise. That also reminded me that the first ever Chinese film that I've seen Alex has been in is a Guernsey movie. And I was watching, only recently, I was so excited. After all these years I've known Alex. 我第一次咧睇Alex 套戲係好偶然，啱啱because of COVID, so we all stuck at home. 咁我就喺度猛咁，因為英文同我睇晒，你佢哋成日都 repeat. And then I don't really watch Netflix because frankly speaking, I just don't have time to watch 晒啲劇集。咁我就睇下啦，不如我睇中文片啦咁我去咗衛視電影台咁。And then all of a sudden, I thought, shit, that's Alex. He's a fucking vampire. So 我即刻攞住我個 camera， 即刻記唔記得？我即刻攞住 camera， 我話 fuck Alex, I'm taking pictures of you. You're a vampire.
It was like afternoon 喺屋企即係。And then 你都令到我不如打開個電視都睇翻。
好啊，
好似林家棟監製嗰套。
係啊。林家棟
Gordan Lam. What a small world. 但係咧，我 I have to say it was 我 actually 睇完嗰出戲咧，我係打開眼界，因為 because I only know Alex as a person and of course as a musician 唱歌 I've never seen him act before, but this guy.
Okay. Let's get back to Brad Pitt now.
Smooth.
Thank you.
So anyway, he was interviewing. He was doing an interview with a vampire, and 佢哋個啱啱嗰時咧，我係 promote 緊一間 club 叫做 Browns, which is like the top celebrity club in Kate Moss 啦, Robert Downey Jr. 啦. George Michael 啦
Wow.
That's pre-Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr.
Kylie Minogue 啦，所有啲 top model 啦，in London 啦，就算香港啲人其實冇人 actually there's hardly any people from Hong Kong come to my place because 我好少同香港人玩 ，not because I don't really hang out with Chinese people。
嗰陣時香港人會唔會喺 London 出去蒲嘅咧？
佢哋佢哋唔會蒲，但係佢哋會 hang out。嗰時我諗佢哋會去唱 K 咯。
即係 Chinatown
嗰啲地方咯。So this is it's not really my cup of tea。我唔係 Chinatown。
You were more westernized. You were in the Western crowd.
鬼仔，我直情係想做鬼仔，我不嬲都想做鬼仔嘅。At that time。
Yeah. So what's Brad Pitt like in real person?
Brad Pitt actually is a very cool guy. 嗰時因為佢 he's super young at that time, and he didn't know anybody. He was in my club, just having a beer by himself. 啲女仔 just think that he's a good-looking boy, 但係冇人 nobody was looking after him, so I felt bad. So I said, why don't you just hang out and I take you out to introduce you to some people and bring him out for dinner. So he was a very down-to-earth guy. I bet he does probably wouldn't know me now, but if I would have told him the stories that we went through,
佢會記得嘅，
yeah,
佢會記得嘅。
佢會一定記得我。
Those are the ones I want to
I
hear.
hope you watch.
I know.
哇！如果 Brad Pitt 有睇 Bloop 話，我開心。
Oh my God! If Brad Pitt, it's like he sees your
shout
name,
out
it's
to
like,
Brad.
oh my God! I remember
Yeah.
Gordon from back
Yeah.
in the day.
So Brad 係一個啦，個 Prince 啦。I mean, excuse me. Actually, I was very lucky, but 因為 I guess it's kind of like anyone's dream. I mean, 有好多人覺得會見到明星to that sort of caliber. It's incredible.
Oh yeah, I know. Especially like in that generation, like in the '80s, Prince, Madonna,
yeah.
like those guys, they have like a super aura.
Yes.
Like Prince is like a, you know, there's Instagram accounts where they just talk about like like random Prince facts and stuff.
Oh, really?
You know, like you don't see a lot
You
of
want
that.
real Prince facts?
Oh yeah, yeah.
What kind of Prince facts?
Well, I don't know. I remember like because I'm a huge Prince fan too.
Oh, really?
So sometimes for example, I saw one the other day, and it was saying that there was a certain period in time when Prince would, every time he went out to eat, he would only have. His order would always be the same. He would always eat spaghetti bolognese and a glass of orange juice.
Yeah,
And this is just some random trivia fact. Like, my point being is that, you know, like in that time, like the artists, musicians, actors, they were kind of like almost, you know, godlike status.
Yes.
Nowadays, it's more personal, I think.
Well,
you know?
I think the godlike stuff is because half of them are dead already. So the people like Prince and whatever, I mean, they are legends.
同埋我諗，因為資訊未有咁發達之前咧，
係啊
即係你能夠知道一啲 celebrity 或者一啲好出名嘅人嘅一啲小事，係好難得知嘅。
好難好難
啲嗰啲傳訊都冇咁快，係啊。
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
If like Prince was, 假設 Prince was alive today, 可能佢都喺度玩緊 IG story, and it's like,都冇乜。
Actually, to be honest with you, if you really want to know a little bit of fact about Prince, let me sneak a little preview for you. Every time when he comes down to my club, he is the kind of person who will sit at the back end where nobody can see him. And then he has the biggest security. 因為 Prince 咧其實係好矮. He's like 5'2", maybe 5, I don't know, 5'1" or something. 但係佢隻高踭鞋就好高咯。And obviously because of his look and his makeup, the way he dressed and his tight pants, you know, he stands out. A lot of girls liked him because he's not one of those people who are aggressive and nasty to girls like, hey, come over here and sit with me. I want to show off and open champagne. He is totally different. 佢係嗰啲係好靜，佢情願喺啲 club 度叫啲最靚嗰啲女過嚟飲嘢，咁然後就開晒 champagne 俾佢哋，佢自己唔飲嘅。And he doesn't even talk to them. Yeah， 但係嗰時係冇 Instagram 冇相機，啲人嗰啲電話都。You can only text, right?
Yeah.
So you can't even take pictures.
Yeah.
So and in those days, you know, he's kind of like super low key, and sometimes I wonder why he'd even come out
to the club.
I
right?
think he's a bit lonely, to be honest with you. 因為幾慘啲，因為你咁大嘅明星咧，你去到邊度咧
Yeah.
You are being in the fish tank,
Yeah.
so everybody's watching you. 同埋咧，我記得咧有好多女仔。
Fish tank. Our studio is called Fish Tank.
Here. Welcome to my fish tank with Alex and Marcus. So I remember some of my friends actually went back to his hotel room to party, and afterward they said, "Oh, Prince just ordered ice cream and popcorns and bought lots of sweets for everybody, and then he went to his room and he slept." So everybody was watching cartoon in his room, like 3 or 4 in the morning. So that's a triple facts for you.
So my next question I wanted to ask you, so you were saying you were in London studying and also working for a total of 18 years. And then you came back to Hong Kong and you suddenly, we'll get into the story why you decided to stay. But when you came back here and you started doing, clubs and stuff here, did you want to bring all those things that you learned or experienced from London to Hong Kong?
Actually, the last thing I wanted to do was clubs because I've been in the club business in London for a long time. So I've learned a lot from clubs. I grew up in the clubs, and of course, a club is not really the right environment for everybody because it's I don't want to say it's not a nice business. There's a lot of sharks and there's a lot of good people and there's also a lot of bad people in clubs, like anywhere else. So you have to. I mean, I'm Buddhist myself, so I believe in karma. I believe that 如果你做人嘅話，you can't be nasty to people. You can't trick people to do things and whatever. I think you need to, and I think I was lucky that when I was doing clubs in London, because of my Buddhist upbringing, it kind of like balanced myself out, not to get myself in trouble or get other people in trouble or get into certain substances or whatever. So it's I see a lot of people who are gone way down south. People who sometimes passed away for doing, whether it's overdose or alcoholics or whatever. So I don't want to say it's all bad. But I'm just saying that it's something that, after all these years in London, and knowing all these people coming back to Hong Kong, I don't usually share. 其實我都冇好少話俾人聽 what I used to do in London. 以前有好多 expat 嘅香港嘅人咧 they used to come to my club. Those are my closest friends, and they will know, like how legendary I was in London in those days because I was the only person who can get any Asian people into a club where they could be sitting next to Kate Moss or Paris Hilton or sitting behind Prince, for example. So,
即係你會唔會形容到可能嗰陣時 Asian 係咪會有少少真係有次一等嘅感覺咧？係咪有啊？
Asian 有 sorry
次一等，即係好似 second tier 咁樣。
我唔會咁睇，因為我已經去到嗰個 level 咧，係你嗰個 club scene 咧已經係 beyond racial discrimination. It's either you're cool or you're not cool. So there's a lot of cool black people around. There's only one cool Chinese people around, and that's me.
喂，點解會講呢個問題？因為譬如尤其是出咗 Crazy Rich Asians 之後咧，即係 Asian 嗰個地位曾經係好似 all of a sudden they notice Asians are actually like loaded。
呢個好多年後㗎啦，
係就係話好多年。咁你講以前係咪就係話係即係或者咁講？我喺我嘅年代 ，LA a good club is like 一開嘅時候咧，全部白人嘅，跟住咧開始就走下坡咧，就變咗一半一半啦。跟住去到最尾咧，淨係做 Asian night 嘅啫，就係買飛入場咁樣。係有少少咁樣嘅 trend 嘅。咁
其實嗰個 evolution 咧係點樣係喺一個 Western society 咧，佢哋會開始 accept Chinese people or Asian people in general。Whether you're in London, Paris, New York, LA, Canada, San Fran, whatever， 係因為我嗰個年代咧係好少人，但係咧喺香港，我識嗰啲人咧they were at boarding school in London with me at that time. So majority of them are super rich boys, and for those people to come down to a club, usually when you go to a club， 我 start 嗰時90年代嗰時咧 ，early 90年代。啲人落到嚟咧，佢哋叫散 drinks。其實一個 one bottle of champagne 咧，每咧嗰時係我諗 50磅，即係50磅係其實係好平，
好平。不過嗰陣時就唔知幾耐之前，即係
我唔知啦，50磅啦。咁你喺香港嚟嘅人。哇！50磅，500蚊開支香檳抵啦！你如果喺香港去啲
細都買唔到啦，50磅
開啦，10支上啊咁啊！
You know Asian people 佢哋計數叻，哇！咦，我開2個散樽，
就係咯，
已經40蚊啦，哇！
所以咧，all of a sudden 咧，我間 club 咧，they started accepting a lot of 即係我嗰啲 friend 入嚟 because that will lead to another story how we started Dragon-i and how I met Gilbert. That's a very interesting story. So, actually, I was the only connection at that time to any. 我又唔想講 rich and famous，因為 I don't really want to classify it as. 即係 I don't really want to place myself that I'm from rich and famous family. I'm not. In fact, I'm just an ordinary boy who went to school in London, and I was trendy. I was just happened to be doing something super cool, and of course when people from Hong Kong finds out， 喂，你如果去到 London 啊，你一定要揾呢條友啊！哇，佢搞啲 club 全部都係靚人，你入唔到去㗎。中國人啊，你 Chinese 要排隊嘅，你排隊去到門口，佢都唔會俾你入嚟嘅。So a lot of people think, oh shit, Gordan 係好串嘅人嚟嘅。Because to be honest, if I don't know you, I can't let you into my club. So basically, 嗰個年代咧係你可以企喺門口，佢話係爆晒嘅，成條街係你點呢個幾多人啊 ？OK 入嚟啊！你直情係唔使望，即係你係 you were God controlling the entire club basically 。你靚啊？幾多人入嚟？啲門口啲人咧就喺度，嘿 ，what about me？sorry， we're full。sorry，come in。因為你喺門口見到，
我真係會經歷過咁嘅 environment，淨係得 Vegas 先至。
Exactly，
即係佢哋會排隊咧喺個嗰個賭場入邊排幾個圈，都係排到去都未必俾你入喎。仲要我手袋住可能100蚊美金。
冇用嘅，
冇用嘅，都係仲俾你入去，再俾錢再入去，再俾錢入去，再俾錢埋入，先至入到去，即係幾辛苦啊！
以前咧 actually 好多人咧都成日幫握手咧俾錢我，然後咧我俾翻錢佢哋。
Sorry, you're just not cool enough, man.
I don't need money, man. I'm just a cool guy. So eventually, so a lot of people from Hong Kong heard about me. So a lot of the famous or well-travelers from Hong Kong who comes to London, and if they want to come to a club, a friend of a friend 就會介紹。佢話：喂，你打電話俾邊個？or some of my friends would just text me from Hong Kong and say, hey, by the way, we have somebody coming to London. Can you look after them? I say, yeah, sure. So this is how I met a lot of the people, because half of my life I wasn't even in Hong Kong. So I don't really get involved. I don't mix with anybody in Hong Kong.
Right, yeah.
So I don't really know except all the cool fashion crowd, because that's what I was focused on doing as a fashion designer and also as a club promoter. I don't really go out and meet. 我唔會走去唐人街，喂，睇下今個禮拜有邊個靚女喺度，等我叫佢約佢出街先啊。That's it's a little bit weird. So anyway, to cut the long story short, the reason how I met Gilbert Yeung, my partner, we started Dragon-i together, is basically one day, a friend of mine actually texted me and said, by the way, Gilbert Yeung from Amber Group, the son of Amber Group, Yeung Xiaoxing 個仔 is coming to London. Do you think you can look after him? 我話 who is 楊秀成 and Amber Group？ 因為我好少翻嚟 I have no idea.
You were really 鬼仔。
I was totally westernized. So 英皇係咩嚟 ？I have no idea. Sorry， 阿壽哥，我梗係識你啦，而家係咪？
同埋嗰陣時應該都未係 entertainment， 我諗。嗰時我仲係珠寶同埋地產咗可能。
或者係，
可能仲係
啊，或者係。但係嗰時我真係唔識我細路仔，真係唔知佢哋係邊個。咁然後咧，我話：哇，你一定要 look after 佢啊！佢好 connected 㗎喺香港。咁我話 wait a minute， 我話 I only look after people that I like. I said, it's not where they came from or who they are. That's my life. I mean, you don't have to tell me 佢爹哋係邊個，佢阿爸係邊個，
即係道不同不相為謀啦，啱傾先最緊要。
啱傾即係啱傾你咪得咯咁。So eventually Gilbert came to one of my nights with my friends。咁咧，然後嗰時I was looking after I was in the VIP room。咁我啲 huge black bouncer saying, "Hey, there's some fucking chinks outside looking for you." I mean, talk about politically correct.
Yeah.
If you call somebody fucking chink, in nowadays you are a fucking racist, right? Now, in those days, if you're calling somebody fucking chink, then you just think it's a joke because I know the English sense of humor so well. I said, "What? There's a bunch of chinks outside looking for me?" Yeah, they were asking for your name. So I actually went outside to the club. 咁然後我睇，咁然後我識得有個朋友，咁然後我話佢話Gordon，喂，我帶咗 Gilbert 嚟，我話OK，因為我忙得滯嗰時，咁然後咧我就同啲多，因為好多人仲喺度排隊啊嘛，咁 anyway 我就話 OK，security that person come in and give them a stand for the VIP， 咁我就自己入咗去 VIP 嗰邊。looking after VIP， 咁我成晚咧其實咧就冇同阿 Gilbert 傾過偈。咁咧 ，of course， Gilbert 大哥咧就afterwards 先我翻嚟香港98年咧，我翻到嚟香港，佢先同我講，佢因為嗰時咧我98年翻到嚟嗰時咧 ，I didn't have any friends， 同埋咧，因為你話就話你 because we like going out，so of course你想蒲嗰啲就梗係蒲啦，係咪 ？You go out and see your friends， 但係我真係唔識我 actually 林海峰都係我個classmate，we grew up together at the same school。
林海峰喺香港嘅時候
，Jan 係我個同學嚟㗎。
哦，即係聖租嘅時候。聖
租啊，我係聖租仔嚟㗎。
我都係聖租仔。
係咪啊？恭喜你！聖租仔係最靚仔。Gilbert 係聖租仔，係啊。咁啊 ，anyway， 但係嗰時我真係唔識阿 Gilbert 係邊個。就算我細個6年班，即係我係小學嗰時我都唔識，因為我中一先至走嘅。咁 anyway 咁我翻到嚟咧 ，so I didn't know anybody hang out. So the mutual friends who brought Gilbert to London to introduce me to get into the club that night happens to be in Hong Kong and introduced me to Gilbert again. And Gilbert 咧知咁咧frankly speaking 啦，佢話你仲記唔記得我啊？我話嗱，阿 Gilbert 係大哥嚟嘅嚇，咁佢都幾惡嘅。嗰時嚇，我翻嚟嗰時，咁咧佢就話你唔記得我啊？我咪 Gilbert 咯，你咪就係嗰條粉腸叫我入嚟間 club 度俾咗個印我，一路唔睬我。佢話我走咗之後啊。我同我啲 friend， 我同我啲 friend 講，我話如果依條 P 機翻落嚟咧，我一定搏濕佢嘅，唔係搏柒佢。And then funny enough, we became friends.
Yeah.
And 嗱，呢啲咧不打不相識，我哋又冇打到，但係咧 eventually it's just for some strange reason, I never was supposed to be in Hong Kong. I never thought I would ever come back to Hong Kong. 98年。我翻到嚟3個禮拜 ，I decided 3個禮拜完咗之後咧 I was thinking, what the hell am I supposed to be doing in London? Look at Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so happy that I'm Chinese.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud that I'm Western, but I've done all I've wanted in London as a Chinese person. That I represented Chinese in such a way that I made Chinese Asian people cool. I was still promoting clubs at that time and still designing. 98年嗰時 I didn't even tell my work that I was never going back. I stayed.
Well, it was a very sudden decision, right?
No, I just decided I'm going to fucking stay in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Because I love Hong Kong. Hong Kong actually is my home. So actually to think about, in general, the life, about people going back to the evolution of a Chinese person growing up, wanted to be westernized， 一定要着外國牌子，唔可以着 Made in China 嘅嘢。And then totally westernized it and understand what Western world think about Asians or whatever. And I was lucky enough to represent Asians to make Asian people look cool in a certain way. It's not my 係我嘅，我覺得係我嘅係咪咩叫做咩命啊？使命嚇，我覺得我個使命已經達到咗。And then I came back when I came back to Hong Kong， 我覺得原來 Chinese 係咁 cool。And then from then on I really appreciate that I was proud to be Chinese。因為我翻到嚟啲人話：哇！呢個 Chinese 好 cool 喎。咁我嗰時去到英國嗰時，話 Chinese 又係好 cool 喎。Because I made Chinese cool and then I came back， 啲人話：哇！你好 cool。但係我翻到嚟98年嗰時咧，係我嗰時咧係完全啲中文咧係好唔掂。即係我係。18年我嗰時係明珠台嚟嘅，係明珠台。I was Pearl Channel 嚇，咁咧我啲朋友個個同我講中文咧，我講下，我去咗翡翠台咧，咁講咗兩句咧，我又翻咗去明珠台，即係好似你撳錯掣，睇下翡翠就走咗去明珠。
教咗米劇咁長期都係英文。
好犀利，好好笑。咁我以前咧就of course 我之前已經話咗俾你聽，我家姐嗰時。住喺赤柱又做International School 校長啦，咁我成日嗰時未有車，咁我成日要叫的士啦。咁我哋嗰時蒲完蘭桂坊嗰時，咁好好笑，因為咧我成日打電話叫的士咧，啲的士司機咧聽唔清楚我啲中文，其實咧就好似有少少佢啲口音，但係咧即係有少少佢啲好斯文嘅。鬼仔嘅口音咧 ，sorry I'm not Chinese 我喺外國翻嚟嘅。咁咧，我啲朋友成日喺度笑我，佢話赤柱唔該赤柱唔該。咁我話我有講到赤柱唔該，因為你打電話俾的士台，我話唔該赤柱唔該。佢就話去邊啊？赤柱唔該。佢話我啲朋友話等我嚟啦。佢話要去赤柱啊，外籍啊唔該。心
諗邊度叫赤柱唔該啊？
赤柱唔該啊！咁
你要自己嘅地方。
OK 得，明白得 OK。
好，翻嚟赤柱唔該，
赤柱唔該外籍啊。咁咧好多成日啲的士到嚟到接我嗰時，佢話：喂，你唔係外籍咯喎？我話係啊，係我朋友話我係外籍啊。Anyway， 咁actually 我翻嚟嗰時咧，嗰年咧有一樣嘢咧，你哋大家都唔知道。嗰時咧我係成個頭咧 bleach 曬灰金色。嗱。你唔好話我前衞，其實我係好前衞嘅。你估 K-pop 係前衞 ？No way。
BigDaddyGlam。
K-pop 你估 G-Dragon 前衞咩 ？No way。Back in 1990s， 我已經有金頭髮，同埋咧我嗰時有高鐵。我嗰時係 bleach blonde 嘛。
Oh shit。
So I have a bleach blonde goatee。Wearing sunglasses。成
個鬼佬咁。
我23歲開始戴太陽眼鏡。Because I want to look like， 因為你 in the club scene， 如果我好似你咁like smooth skin 咁斯文咧，你俾人蝦到。
嗰日 just picking on me non-stop。
And then I have bleach blonde hair，bleach blonde goatee， 黑全部戴晒 rings。哇！啲人話：哇 this Chinese guy look like a really hardcore gangster。咁咧我就。So nobody， 即係冇人會蝦我。
如果你英國翻嚟就，如果你美國翻嚟，哇！呢個人係咪整 Texas barbecue？ 你係咪嗰個 image 啊？嗰種人係嗰種樣嘅喎，係啊。
咁我最好笑就係我翻到嚟嗰時咧，其實我嗰時係，我有太多 story share 俾你。我講咗我個金毛先啦。我金毛事件就係其實嗰時咧係我翻嚟嗰時咧，我唔敢話俾媽咪聽。我屋企人聽，我淨係話咗俾我妹聽。我話：阿妹啊，你不如 warn 定阿媽咧，我唔係好似你以前嗰個阿哥咁樣嘅。 我而家係金毛同埋金須。
咁
咁我妹同我講，佢話：你死梗啦，等你一定俾媽咪鬧啦，你仆街。
Yeah，
好大個噶咯，你嗰陣時都廿
係啊，廿幾歲
嗰陣時
我而家我而家幾多歲都會俾媽咪鬧啊，係咪先？但係嗰個時代你漂髮咧係其實嗰時係已經好多金毛。我其實嗰時唔知道。我媽咪話：嗱，你翻到嚟咧，你一定俾差佬咧鬥硬㗎，因為嗰時係興晒啲黑社會古惑仔，
係念金毛嘅，
係嗰時係古惑仔，
古惑仔年代金毛飛，
係啦。咁咧，我98年翻到嚟嗰時咧，其實咧，如果你識睇嘅話咧，其實我個金毛咧同古惑仔啲金毛係唔同嘅，
靚好多嘅。
我個金毛咧係有錢人嘅金毛，佢哋嗰啲咧係好 cheap
係屋企
嘅金毛嚟嚇，所以咧有兩種，佢哋係戴黃色，我係戴灰藍色嘅。So that's the difference。同埋咧，我嗰時咧係未一次咧都未俾差佬鬥過。And then 嗰時我翻到嚟咧，我冇嘢飲運，咁我又未知做乜嘢。But I decided to stay in Hong Kong。咁嗰時我有一個朋友叫做阿寶Max 葉，佢嗰時係做script writing for 嘉禾電影嘅嗰時。咁佢就話：喂，你不如拍下戲啦！你咁嘅樣咁咧，Jingle 媽啦，我幫阿 Jingle 媽拍過嘢啦，我幫阿麥兆輝拍過嘢啦，即係無間道個導演啦。嗱，我拍清嗰啲咧，都係要我扮古惑仔，貼晒紋身。嗰時咧，我覺得嗰時我又唔知做乜嘢，咁我又覺得哇，試下娛樂圈啦咁。其實娛樂圈係it's a very tough business。咁嗰時我啲中文又唔係咁好，你俾個 script 你99% 嗰啲字我都唔識睇，其實係好難頂。咁我 actually 咧，我有拍過幾出戲嘅，有一個咧就叫做Ray Fever。Ray Fever 就有你撐心，係好耐以前，同埋Terrace 成班一齊嘅。嗰時咧我就係唯一個金毛，同埋成班人。
你知唔知佢係講咩嘅？
周圍蒲咯，佢 rave 個年代 and like 都係咪有
好耐啦，好耐。嗰出戲咧其實就係無間道導演 Alan Mac 拍嘅。
叫咩名嘅中文？
邵輝。
週末係咪週末狂熱啊？
週末
狂熱。
我哋揾一揾。
好啊。
好睇嘅，好睇嘅。
咁嗰時仲有個女仔，我唔記得咗叫做咩名。She was a model from Singapore or Malaysia. She was the kind of like the main character. 咁我哋全部啲蒲友咧，就全部我哋識嗰集咧，就全部入晒去呢出戲裏邊。So actually it was the first ever rave
party in Hong Kong?
I mean, no, it was the first ever rave film was produced in Hong Kong at that time。因為嗰時係興 rave，即係由古惑仔開始去 rave 啦。嗰時 ，so that's how I met 阿森仔嗰時。
What was the club scene when you 你啱啱翻嚟到？
我啱啱翻嚟嗰時個 club scene 咧，其實係 after 97金融風暴冧咗啦 ，so a lot of people lost a lot of money。So at that time 經濟唔係咁好。所以其實蘭桂坊咧係一個死城嚟。There was nothing happening. Nobody was going out。
好似而家咁。
Kind of like that。
Yes， 好似而家咁。咁咧嗰時咧得我同阿 Gilbert 晚晚出去蒲。咁 actually，this is how we started。咁我哋成日都喺度傾，我話：喂，我哋做啲咩？因為我好想做嘢。咁阿 Gilbert 就其實都唔係需要做嘢嘅人嚟嘅，但係。We all wanted to do something a little bit more constructive， 咁我就猛咁同 Gilbert 話：不如我哋做啲 cool 嘅嘢，that we can really represent Hong Kong，and make Hong Kong be an international city。咁嗰時因為我哋嗰時成日出去咧 we meet a lot of people in 蘭桂坊，但係嗰時係多數都係鬼啲嘅人。 鬼佬啊，CEO 即係外國翻嚟，即係啲 brand 嘅品牌嗰啲人咧。So we met a lot of people like that。咁其實我哋點樣 start Dragon-i 咧？就係 before Dragon-i， we actually started a production company called G-Spot Production。
G-Spot Production，
right？
produce 曬啲 G-Spot 啦。
係啦，嗱嗰時咧係 the name how it came up 就係有一晚咧，我同 Gilbert 就飲到醉晒喺佢屋企。咁佢Gilbert 就話：喂，如果我哋開間PR company，咁嗰時咧就有 Jackson，Jackson 就係以前江欣燕前任嘅老公ex husband。咁咧其實佢Jackson 嗰時咧就係負責啲明星嗰班，我咧就係負責sort of show production 嗰時。咁 Gilbert 咧就 of course 佢個 connection with 啲明星DJ， 因為佢嗰時係做緊 DJ。So combined together， we started a PR and production house in Hong Kong for the first time。因為嗰時咧係分得好 different 嘅，係 either you're a PR company or you're a production company， 係永遠唔會 combine 一齊嘅。So basically，we created the company that combines PR and production together。And then we in I think in 2000，early 2000啦，2000年啦，嗰年代咧係因為嗰時係未有social media 啦。So what the brands, all the brands LV 又好 Gucci 又好啦，what they used to do is they will recreate the Paris show or the Milan show and bring it out。
嗰個品牌會
個品牌create the same setting，
即係 duplicate 曬 Paris Fashion Week 嗰個 exact show， 再做一次喺 Asia。
哇！
嗰時咧喺香港咧係 it
was a big deal。
Yeah，it was all the money was here。
Yeah。
basically 因為香港咧 is the main hub，so 佢哋會 fly in 曬所有最勁嘅 VIP customers。
How big were those parties before?
Over 1,000 people. So there's always free drinks after the show, free dinner. I mean, sorry, not free dinner.
Banquet,
free party. And there's also entertainment afterwards. So it was like 1,000 people. Imagine 1,000 people, and then it was like a proper catwalk, and then afterwards a proper catwalk. 你成個 set 係直情係個版變咗，就變咗一個 party venue。
Oh my God.
So everybody was trying to outdo each other at that time. So there was a lot of money spent on and there was a lot of disposable income from the brand, because before social media there was no KOLs either.
Yeah.
So nowadays, if you look at what KOLs are doing or all the brands are doing, they have no idea what 2000年嗰個時代 if you were there, either 一係名門明星。最勁、最靚嘅人、最有錢嘅人，有一班 model， 最 cool 香港嘅。So basically, to make a party, we use the same concept as how do you make a club cool? Is 你一定要啲有錢人啦，使錢啦；你一定要啲靚人啦；你一定要城中嘅名人啦；你又要有明星啦；你又要有最
good music
香港嘅人啦。
呢5個 category 係 exclusive 啊，即係唔係個個都去到，要係某一種 status in life， 無論係你嘅 talent 啦，或者係你個可能 appearance 啦，或者係你個 financial background， 去到令到你成為個 exclusive 入邊咯。
係啦，冇錯啦。So 其實我啱啱翻嚟嗰個年代，嗰時係最好玩嘅年代。
以前嗰啲 party 你喺邊度搞啊？
其實佢哋好多時係多數都係會展嘅，因為嗰時咧係會展嗰個場地咧係最大啦，同埋最 flexible。咁其實我同阿 Gilbert 咧 create 咗 G-Spot Production 嗰時咧，其實有幾個原因嘅。點解啲人話 why you call it G-Spot？ 其實我哋有一晚醉咗，就喺阿 Gilbert 屋企吹水。因為我哋最勁就係吹水啦。and then 阿 Gilbert 話：喂，Gordan，不如你諗個名先啦，我哋未開production company。我話得啦，喺度飲杯嘢先，然後我話不如我哋叫做 G-Spot 啦。我話就係咁啫。咁佢話 G-Spot 點解啊？我話你個名 Gilbert start with G，我個名 Gordon，start with G，我話香港嗰啲 press 都唔知 G Sport 係乜嘢，佢哋一定唔知係咩嚟㗎啦咁。So it was kind of like
a joke, inside joke.
Yeah, it's like G Sport Production。其實啲鬼佬就知，但係好多 Chinese 佢都唔知。所以咧，其實有好多報紙嗰時咧，成日寫我哋叫做 G Sport Production， 其實就唔係 G Sport， 即係 sporty， 即係叫運動啊。其實我哋係講緊即係一個 sexual innuendo 嘅咩
？So sorry，
唔緊要。
What in G Sport Production? What was the best party that you remember you guys threw？ 因為我想象到嗰件事，哇！我即係 I've only been to like 1 or 2 parties that caliber in Hong Kong。But I can imagine 以前係好勁嘅。
我諗我哋每一個 party 咧，我哋同好多品牌做過 Burberry 又好，Dior 啦，so many brands. I can't even pick one brand out. 因為 brand 還 brand event. We actually did one of the first. Surprisingly, we were the first one to create an X game. Show at Lam. And it was sponsored by a contact lens called Cybervision. They wanted to attract all these young street kids in those days who wanted to just to be cool and have different color eyes， 即係好似而家嗰啲韓星咧嗰啲咧，最初代嘅 color con 咁樣。Yeah, exactly. So they wanted to create something to create this thing. So 我哋點樣咧？我哋就係完全唔知道 X game 嗰啲 RAM 啊點 build 啊，咁我哋就 book 晒所有全世界咧數一數二 BMX bike 嗰啲人，skateboard 嗰啲人就嚟香港，我哋就話啊呢個場我哋要咁，我哋用緊啲木工啊啲 production 嗰啲，就我話啊呢個 RAM 就要咁啊。Anyway, so we actually that was one of the most memorable。因為咧，其實我哋間 company 咧係好細。It was myself, Gilbert and Jackson。嗰時咧，我妹咧都有幫到手嘅。咁我家姐咧嗰時咧 ，because she was still at international school。咁我哋搞咁大壇嘢咧，我哋唔係淨止做一個one day full on X game performance 嘅 show。We invited I think 打鼓 what's his name supposed to be in the shoot
June
係啊鐘石良啦，佢哋嗰時有隊 band 嘅，同埋我唔記得咗隊 band 叫做咩 Josie Ho 啦，嗰時 Josie Ho 嗰時已經開始 rap 啦 Addison Chan 啦，so we actually did a concert。With live concert, with X game, and with all these. 嗰時因為佢哋興啊嘛。So we created the kind of like concert. There was like a couple of thousand people who came. 咁我哋根本冇咁多人手。So I asked my sister as a friend to get all these kids from international school to help out us to manage the booth and sell tickets.At the door, so I think 即係除咗啲 brand 嗰啲 ，which is I think it's a standard thing. It's for me, it's always easy. But when you try to create something new in Hong Kong, that was the first time ever, an X game performance with a live concert. 同埋嗰日咧，我哋曬到豬頭炳咁，由朝頭早 I mean, it was an overnight setup at Lam, and then so many things could have gone wrong. 因為啲 skaters 嚟到嗰時，嗰啲 half pipe 咧，你啲 angle 唔啱，同埋你啲板咧，其實你要有一個 technique 咧，你要用啲咩釘？你唔係就喂因為板彎咗，OK 得啦 ，pop 咁啊揼幾粒釘頂住先啦咁，因為佢哋嗰啲力度一去壓落去咧，嗰啲板會起翻，同埋啲釘會起翻。咁嗰條友冇理由去到噗一聲卡住咗反彈，然後喺大家面前 PK 啊嘛。So
大鑊過呢個，
好大鑊啫係。So there was a lot of things. Of course we learned, but touch wood we we made it through, and I think it was, to me, it was one of the most memorable time for me.
I mean, just hearing you talk about G-Spot Productions and then Hong Kong of that era, it makes me like 即係會少少掛住嚇。依家尤其是依家
Yes.
in the past year that because this is part of like the Hong Kong lifestyle.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
we're always Hong Kong is always have events, big parties. Socializing is very important for
Yes,
the industry, the economy of Hong Kong.
Yeah.
But now we're going through this, hard period of time.
Yes, I think Hong Kong, I mean, ever since we started G-Spot Production, we started G-Spot Production and we did it for maybe 2.5 years. And 我哋嗰時真係我同 Gilbert 同Jackson, we were doing overnight setup, let's say at Times Square, launching a new perfume for Ralph Lauren Polo or something. 哇係辛苦到咧，夜晚黑3、4點咧，我哋喺度坐喺條街度，坐喺直情係 Times Square 出邊咧，好似嗰啲 production。We were doing production basically. And then 喺度食緊飯盒啊、宵夜啊，同啲 doing sound and light check. It's a tough life.
Tough, yeah.
It's not easy. I mean, as you know, I mean, any production and film production, any production is tough. But it led us to, because 因為嗰時咧，我哋已經識咗 we know a lot of brands. We work with a lot of brands at the time. And one of Gilbert's dream was to actually own a club in Hong Kong. So he told me that he wanted to think of a bigger picture. 唔好咁辛苦命去做production 啊！我哋不如開間 club 啦咁。我話 Gilbert club， 我話點解 Dragon-i 今時今日 it's a restaurant? I can tell you another story. I mean, this is a true story. Gilbert 係好 in his dream he wanted the club full stop. 我 Gilbert no， 因為我 from England, I mean from London, I've been doing clubs for so long, so I know how people see club owners when they get to a certain age, when they go out in a social event, how people see them. Wow, these club owners. So I told Gilbert, I said, Gilbert, imagine when you're 50 years old, 你係一個好 international 嘅function, and you're sitting next to some of the top and most snobbish people in the world. Some snobbish girl next to you tap you on the shoulder just wanted to be polite to you. Hey, Chinky, what do you do? And then if you turn around and say, I own a club in Hong Kong, they will say, oh, nice to meet you. See you. Oh, so what's that? So that is the reality. If you want to be a club promoter.
點解咧？
因為
有個咁嘅 image 喺度。
因為 club promoter， I mean 唔係 club promoter。club owner 咧，永遠係唔及一個 restaurateur。嗱，Sir David Tang is a restaurateur. He's not a club owner, but he can organize party. So for Gilbert, and Gilbert has his own image already because he's a party boy. We're all party boys. 但係if we wanted to turn over a leaf to make people think that we're serious, I suggested, no, we have to be a restaurateur. Because when you go out and tell people that you own restaurants, you are on a totally different level already, especially if it's a high-profile international restaurant where everybody comes. It doesn't matter whether it turns into a club. You can still turn it into a lounge bar. Let's call it a lounge bar, not a club. So that's how Dragon-i started. 咁同埋個名咧，阿 Gilbert 都係我改嘅。點解叫做 Dragon-i？ 有好多人都唔知，有好多人叫 Dragon-i 係咪龍眼咧？
係咯，冇中文嘅喎。
係啊，係咪 DI 啊？點解叫
DI 啊
？So basically, I thought about 100 names for Gilbert. 咁然後咧 Gilbert was going through. I don't like it. Actually, for 因為咧嗰時咧我話 Why don't we just call it Yakuza？
This is another potential name.
I said 我哋咁 bad boy，Why don't we just call it Yakuza？ 因為嗰時we were trying to find what restaurant we wanted to do，and 我哋喺度諗 What is healthy that we can eat every day？And 我哋會食麵意大利，我哋唔可以日日食意大利，你嗰時 you're going to be so full。Chinese restaurant 啊，哇！你日日食 Chinese， 我驚冇 Western 會嚟喎。咁我話 Japanese 啊又偏咗啲，因為又唔係 Japanese 啊。咁我哋 we couldn't decide basically，so we decided fuck it，let's do Japanese and Chinese together. So basically we're the first restaurant that combined Chinese and Japanese food. So we have the best of two cuisines that we all love to eat every day. 咁咧 so eventually when we open, of course 因為我哋咁 high profile 啦，嗰時嗰個年代2001年我哋嗰時開嘅應該嗰時係好多名門啊、明星啊we were the only club。我哋同埋咧嗰時咧係嗰時得蘭桂坊，蘭桂坊已經冇人㗎啦。嗰時我哋仲要上一級去到雲咸街，雲咸街嗰時咧係全部都係 second hand shop、antique shop 同埋 Persian carpet shop， 冇 restaurant 冇 bar 㗎。嗰時 Centrium 咧嗰棟大廈咧其實得兩個 tenant，the first tenant was Pure Yoga。佢哋開先嘅，咁咧下邊咧其實雲咸街嗰3間 ground floor 嗰時我哋係 bid 緊 ，we wanted to be on the ground floor because why want to go upstairs？ 其實咧 actually it's a blessing in disguise。Upstairs 咧我哋又有 terrace， 又可以 smoke，it's cooler。So actually it works out. At the end we took over。I
remember the first time, like when I was young and going to Dragon-i.
Really?
Like there was
how many years ago?
即係 high school 嗰陣時啦，即係
喺外國翻嚟。
Yeah， 暑假翻嚟。There was即係去蘭桂坊係蘭桂坊 as bars。But and then 有陣時間唔中去 Soho 有啲餐廳。I remember like the only one was maybe Pete Cafe.
Yeah.
And maybe 嗰度附近有啲 bar and you go for a drink. But when you went to Dragon-i, it was like
thing, right?
it was a big thing. It was like 硬係少少 little bit different, little bit higher level.
I think the question is, can you get into Dragon-i?
Yeah,
that is the question.
There's always a little.
即係你睇下，我諗最鼎盛嗰個年代咧，就係DI 跟住就 Privé Bungalow 啊，或者再落就可能Roller， 即係再落就吹到最後就係去到 Beijing 啊嗰扎咁樣。即係你見到其實咦呢個真係有少少 class 嘅分別嘅喎，即係可能如果 Privé 就全部 bankers 嘅話咧，DI 就可能係 celeb 啦。咁再落啲去到 Roller 咧，就會係啲可能鬼妹蒲或者係嗰啲人啦。
鬼妹問你攞錢係咪？
再落去 Beijing 就會係搭小巴。喺旺角搭小巴過嚟嗰啲人就喺嗰度，即係有少少分別嘅喎。即係我哋去行嘅，但係你 feel 到每一個場係有少少個 crowd 係唔同嘅。
咁講真，其實嗰時咧講真，我細個嗰時嗰個年代或者 after DD 嗰個年代咧，其實有好多 club 喺九龍。嗰時我哋係揸車過去 Canton 啊、河東啊。嗰個年代有冇扮嘢啦 ，Marcus？
我老豆又話俾我聽 Canton， 我話翻俾你聽過，
你唔好叫我做 Big Daddy 啊！我老豆話俾我聽，我咪你老豆咯 ，Big Daddy。咁anyway 嗰個年代其實係好玩，即係我嗰個 club 先，到我即係我唔想話晒俾人聽，my whole life 我嗰個年代係最玩。其實而家個年代咧，其實 it's not as fun。但係咧，其實而家個年代係多咗選擇，同埋啲人着衫係多咗，即係多咗女出嚟，同埋多咗啲男仔出嚟。So there's a lot of people come out nowadays. 以前係我同阿 Gilbert 開，即係我翻到嚟98年嗰時，我哋落到去哇揾個靚女都揾唔到喎 ，because nobody 我哋淨係好似基佬企喺蘭桂坊嗰條斜路嗰度喺度幾條友啊喺度飲緊啤酒，好慘。
Am I right in your saying？ 即係你意思係咪依家嗰個即係啲人想 more and more people of all different levels, class, like they can come out and enjoy, getting dressed up,
Yeah.
enjoying it. But whereas before
都
it's
唔使
out,
dressed up 我覺得，因為 because nowadays I mean a pair of sneakers is even more expensive than a pair of leather
that's
shoes.
right,
係咪？
yeah,
咁
yeah.
你着住 whatever brand it is, it's ridiculous.
So it was more like VIP smaller crowds scene before, but now it's more 即係mass 咗，係咪咁樣咧？
同埋啲人靚咗咯，即係我哋嗰個年代咧 because it's very niche，即係你係有 taste，同埋咧嗰個年代唔會俾你咁 commercial，係人人都可以去到入到去。但係 of course 而家呢個時代 because a lot of the kids they know how to 打扮 they know I mean you don't really need to dress up in designer gear right or you can tell by the watch you're wearing 哇如果你戴住隻 Richard Mille 你一定有錢啦係咪先除非係假貨嘅啫係咪
Probably fake though.
right so so it's a different generation 但係我覺得而家個 generation 唔同玩法咯同埋我覺得佢哋係 miss 咗嘅，因為而家你睇 KOL 嘅年代啦，佢哋而家去到 event， 大家喺度鬥影相，大家冇 interaction。It's a very lonely and it's not competitive，因為有時佢哋同你傾偈，但係你去到，因為I'm not a KOL，I'm press，so 我去到，喂點啊 Alex， 我一定知道 Alex 喺嗰度一定係做緊嘢嘅，唔通我走去喂點啊？你影相啊？一齊啦咁係咪？所以 backdrop 度係咪唔會咁噶嘛？咁所以a lot of the times 即係而家佢哋做嗰樣嘢，同埋佢哋覺得係而家享受緊嗰樣嘢咧，其實係根本佢哋唔係享受緊，即係佢哋冇咗嗰個 experience of what a big event and show is like before. 呢樣嘢我覺得係 the only downfall.
I see. I wanted to like 我有一個分享咧，就係覺得係即係頭先你都喺度即係講緊，即係你見到依家香港嘅 culture 有慢慢轉變緊。Like for me, like 即係都因為我年紀係都建立咗啲before and 依家咧 ，like I remember when I was young, like nightlife maybe and music and fashion, it was like more dangerous. But now it's starting to be like you were saying more mass and more 即係一個18歲嘅女仔讀緊書大學都可以接觸到 fashion or 音樂 and nightlife 嘅 culture. And I wanted to ask you because 我都見到依家 with you with Hashtag Legend, you're one of like the first publications 同埋platforms to 好似 embrace 呢個新嘅 trend of influencers and this new crowd of people. So I was wondering maybe could you share how that came about? Why 點解你會諗到呢個諗法，同埋你覺得香港依家個將來個 culture 會點樣去變呢？
Actually 我其實I personally I actually left Dragon-i for a long time. Because when I set it up for Gilbert after a few years, I actually left Dragon-i because I think I achieved what I've done and helped Gilbert to do. Now, I mean, I'm still involved with Dragon-i as a friend of Dragon-i, as a friend of Gilbert. So that's why it's like my son. I mean, Dragon-i will always be my son. Tasmania the Ballroom will always be my son because I helped to give birth to this place. So I'm most comfortable at Dragon-i and Tasmania. So basically afterwards, I was actually, at that time, somebody asked me, would I be interested to be a publisher in a magazine, for a magazine. At that time, it was a publication which I'm sure some people may or may not know. It's called Prestige Hong Kong, which is the first. Well, it's kind of like I'm not going to mention the T word, but Prestige actually was co-founded by myself and with my other partners. It was the first magazine before social media to actually At that time, it was unheard of. 我諗2005年到啦，或2004年，or whatever. That's early 2000. I started with my partners at that time, and I told them the only way that I would start a publication is we feature international celebrities on our cover. Because after all these years 喺做 club 咧，every single brand used to call us up and say, can we bring our CEO down, or can we bring our CEO or GM from Paris? So we looked after, because we work with all these brands. So it was a natural thing, and I was very lucky yet again to be able to start something new in Hong Kong and take it to another level. Also, the same theory as how to make Hong Kong cool and Asian cool again is to start an English publication that features international celebrity. Now, in those days, it was unheard of. In the whole of the entire Asia, there were not one magazine that could get international celebrities on the cover.
嗰陣時都係咪冇英文 publication？
有 Tatler. Tatler was the only one. There was a few more. I can't remember. 我諗佢哋已經冇咗啦。So it was really prestige. So when we first started, 我哋第一個cover it was 楊紫瓊。我哋第二個 cover I shot her in Singapore was Victoria Beckham. So in those days, Victoria Beckham, I mean, if you ask me, and in those days, a lot of brands say, yeah, right, you're going to start a publication. Where are you going to get the Hollywood celebrities? But I believe that that's the way to go, because it's a challenge. Because if not, then everybody could be doing it. Then you'll be stuck shooting local stars all the time. 同埋嗰時仲未有social media, so a lot of the communication from Hollywood need a bridge between Asia and Hollywood together. So we actually came in at the right place at the right time.
即係嗰時真係要係睇雜誌先得到嘅資訊咯。
係啦，冇錯啦。
上網都睇唔到，雜誌係最 comprehensive 係睇得晒。
Yeah，嗰時其實雜誌仲係 it's a short way. Yeah. So 其實嗰時上網啲人都唔係咁想上網 ，www. 嗰啲都唔想上網。記唔記得嗰時有
賣6K 撥號
.com 咩啦？.com 熱潮嗰時都
dial-up modems and
yeah. So anyway, so we started that. 我做咗差不多 Prestige 做咗10年。So imagine 10年 we went through 12個 let's say 12期嘅 international celebrity. Imagine how many celebrities.
You did one a month, right?
Yes, once
oh
a month.
my god.
120個 cover 咯。
Exactly.
Oh my
so
god.
Every for so long. So when I started Hashtag Legend, it was actually a very funny story. I don't know whether well anyway I can share with you. I was actually at that time I was going through my divorce, and I couldn't really work full time, and so my boss now, which is Bruce Rockovich, which is Coco Lee 李敏歌手嘅 husband. I spoke to him maybe 6 years ago before I got divorced. I mentioned to him I really wanted to start a digital company while I was still working at Prestige at that time, because I foresee that's going to be all digital. I wanted to do something more digital than just print or www.com, Prestige, whatever. So I mentioned to him, and I never really got back to him about chasing to start this media company. And then after the day I signed my divorce paper, I have no idea, because I was kind of like working part-time because didn't have a full-time job at that time. And the following week, Bruce called me up and said, "Hey, by the way, remember that idea that you told me that you want to start a magazine, very digital? I'm interested." So that's how I started Hashtag Legend. So my partner Anne, whom also started Anne Chaplin, who also started Prestige with me, came along on board because we know that 我哋個舊雜誌已經唔係咁kind of like relevant to what the future people want to do. I mean, the future can
needs to be online now.
係啊，節我唔想用嗰個，係啊，節啦，係啊。
Well, yeah, the times are changing, right? Like 即係我記得around maybe 4-5年前 in Hong Kong, like KOLs, influencers, this whole trend of of these people coming out, like 係真係眨眼跟住，呢個係一個新職業啦。
但係嗰時係
and big influence every of their channels。
嗰時係有 KOL， 但係嗰時係有好多係夠膽出嚟做，但係唔係個個都係successful。There's the good ones and there are the ones who want to be KOLs.
Yeah.
So it was, I think 5年前我哋 start, of course, we started 5 years ago.
That's right. It's 5 years anniversary. You're coming up.
Because you shot the covers for me. And 5年前嗰時咧，我哋已經開始 decided I don't want models to be in our magazine. I want KOLs to be in our magazine because I want to promote them. 嗰時係冇一個 magazine 啊！你諗下香港啲 magazine 咧係完全唔會，佢哋仲係用緊 model， 佢哋仲係用緊local celeb， 佢哋仲係用緊咩？
佢哋未見到個 value。
It's a big shift. It's a big shift.
I think it's 我哋嗰個我諗我哋嗰個 level. What we wanted to do is we needed to first of all 我哋要 relevant 啦。To be honest with you, and secondly 我哋亦都唔想同第二啲 publication 去爭去睇。除咗 KOL， 我哋仲有 international celebrities 啦。So we actually have Rita Ora, David Beckham, Zoe Saldana. We still have those relevant international stars. 但係而家我哋仲有埋 Koreans 啊。So I think within 我哋嗰個I like to see the magazine， 因為係新 magazine 咧。So we don't really have that much restriction like an old magazine 或者一個好 established 嘅名牌 magazine 啦，即係名嘅出名嘅 fashion magazine 咧，佢哋有咁多掣肘去restrict 咗你嘅 freedom. We can basically do anything we want. So I can have as many covers as I want.
So where do you see where would you like to bring Hashtag Legend in the following 5 years? 因為你話依家你冇乜 restriction. Is there a really big project that you guys would like to achieve, like concert or 可能 like before G-Spot big fashion party show? 你哋有冇一個
I think it's hard to say because I don't think the money is going to be like the old days when the fashion shows will be replicated again because now all the brands can fly all the KOLs, the international ones. And as you can see nowadays, the KOLs 你唔使去你因為而家根本做唔到 show. All they doing is
online shows this year,
right? Shows, right? So what they do is they just pay the models. I mean the KOLs. Every country and give them something or pay them something to post to let other people to watch the show. It's a tough period right now.
Yeah.
For all the fashion brands, especially pushing sales. I think my objectives and my I think what I can foresee is having a magazine basically is a way to promote the brand and to try to push the product and the knowledge of the product to a wide audience. And eventually it leads to sales, which is retail driven. So I think the most important for any publication, it's not about whether the publication is cool or whatever. 係咪你可唔可以幫到啲 brand 做到生意？That's the future. China is very good right now. 網紅嗰啲人啦。
Yeah,
it's like I could be sitting here. This could be my show, right?
And you make a
every
big
week I
income.
come here and I can sell you a product
佢帶嗰種
online.
叫唔係淨係 retail，即係唔係 traditional retail，係 e-commerce 嗰種。
Yes,
即係
yes, yes.
你睇咗 show 已經買緊嘢，
即刻買緊
就係
yeah.
買緊嘢嘅。
Yeah.
呢個係香港仲未追得到喎，我覺得。
我諗香港有少少嘅難度咧，就係因為香港咧，始終啲香港人咧有少少 snobbish 嘅，因為佢哋會睇咩人？我點解要睇你介紹啲嘢？因為我覺得我自己有 taste 多過你噶嘛。即係 most people think， 即係你有錢又好，冇錢又好，點解我要睇你介紹？你一定係叻晒咁咩？你咁你明唔係大陸佢哋唔係咩？佢哋大陸嗰啲係真係崇即係當你係一個 god，they follow you because they trust your knowledge。即係 at the same time， 你話 G Dragon 坐咗喺度介紹 Chanel， 你買唔買啊？咁佢啲 fans 梗係G Dragon 咁，因為 because 我哋香港已經冇，香港係冇咗嗰種人啊，你明唔明白？即係冇咗嗰種瘋狂去追求一種
星咯，
星味啦。嗱，你冇星，你冇一個點樣講咧 persuasive 嘅人，就算你係 persuasive， 佢都覺得如果有錢啲，我有錢買嘅，我做咩要睇你嘅節目？我唔需要睇你節目，我入去 shop 我都隨時買到啦。
我諗呢個有少少係成個世界嗰個氣候有啲唔同，就係、譬如我自己啦，我係會睇一個唔識嘅人去介紹，當係睇佢介紹炸軟殼蟹咁先啫。我會睇完佢講完，哇，好似講得幾好喎！即係佢講到呢隻軟殼蟹有啲咩咁好食，點樣整？我睇完，我真係想買喎。而唔係因為 Alex 講完個軟殼蟹好食我就買，因為佢俾到嘅資訊係 more than just 一個明星或者一個偶像，而係真係有資料同埋有背景喺後邊。
Marcus 真係識講嘢，即係佢其實踩緊你啊 ！Alex 介紹嘅大閘蟹咧，千祈唔好買，唔好買，唔好食啊，唔好聽 Alex 講啊！
即係let me see if I can wrap it up。即係你嗰啲你 feel 到佢嘅真心嘅嗰啲係真心嘅説話，真心嘅 sharing over 可能我嗰啲。有人落咗啲廣告咁樣，
或者就算佢落廣告，你都要俾多少少資訊。即係而家係資訊好豐富嘅年代 ，content is king。即係你只要能夠 make 到 content， 而你個 content 係 quality 嘅，啲人就會聽。
Yeah。
同埋咧，我就唔同啦。如果阿 Alex 真係要介紹啲嘢咧，我會聽佢講，我會去買嘅。因為佢尤其是佢變咗僵屍望住我嗰隻眼咧，同埋嗰兩個 fan 彈咗出嚟咧，我情願聽佢買好過俾佢吸我啲血啊！
如果 sell 僵屍牙 for Halloween 一定買，係啦。
That's a good idea。
其實咧，我有一樣嘢咧，今晚咧我一定要講，因為咧我睇完佢同阿 Grace Gracie 做完我拍完嗰出
煎餃，唔係尖叫。
嗱，我咧係好 jealous， 因為我都係阿 Grace。嗱 Grace， 你今晚如果你睇到咧，我問咗你好多次，我係幫你，我完全唔成收你錢咧，我都會幫你拍廣告嘅，拍你個 MV 嘅。但係咧，我見到 Alex 拍得咁好咧，我嗰晚咧係好 jealous， 尤其是咧。我知道佢嘅秘密就係佢係吸血僵屍，同埋咧你仲要俾佢猛咁喺度吸你啲血，好離譜啊你！
你做唔做到佢嗰個 Scorpio 嗰下先？
嗱，唔係嗰個唔係 Scorpio， 我可以話翻俾你聽咧，因為咧佢啱啱Grace 啱啱咧 post 咗 on IG story， 因為咧我覺得好傷心，我成日佢都喺 promote 緊啊，Alex 個招
，he keeps on
意形滿影，
嗰晚
嗰支叫做嗰支叫做咩咧？嗰招好似
蛇形刁手，
蛇形係啊，我頭先我未開節目嗰時，我喺度諗嘅，等我諗一諗先。嗰個 snake move 咧，嗰個 snake move 咧係我覺得咧係 Kama Sutra， 佢做 yoga 咧 Kama Sutra 咧嗰幾百頁嗰啲 position 咧係冇嘅，佢夾硬嚟嘅。佢夾硬就話：喂，你睇下我幾勁啊！咁咧，嗰個咧，我覺得咧就依招咧就叫做趙元松，趙元松走得快，好世界，係咪啊？收錢搞掂。
Oh shit! Well, thank you for coming on our show.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank
you. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Henry, for the lovely beer. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
Good spot.
叫你係咪？